America, my name is Osei-Frimpong. I come to you live every Monday and Thursday. Today I'm going to do a special show because I'm tickled by the fact that Claudine Gay has been voluntold to leave her position at Harvard as president of Harvard because of her comments during the congressional hearing when she refused to denounce the idea that genocide is bad necessarily, and she just said, "Well, these issues or that calls to end Israel are bad." She would just refuse to denounce because maybe it might be the case that we need to entertain arguments that calls to end Israel is a good thing, right? And I think we should entertain the case that calls to end Israel is a good thing. So I think that we should talk about it. And that's going to include. We need to be honest that may have to include some people dying, right? So, and then some people of certain ethnic groups dying. We have an ethno-state that we shouldn't be supporting. We need to talk about why we should not be supporting ethno-states in general. Unless Israel's going to secularize, then we need to talk about how Israel as we know it probably shouldn't. I don't think should exist, and I need to be able to talk about that and talking about how Israel as we know it shouldn't exist. Some people might think of that as me calling for a genocide. Some people might think of that as me calling for blank and blank. But I need to be able to have that debate, or it's a problem for my speech as an American, right? Especially since we're funding Israel's army. So Claudine Gay didn't out denounce the idea that people should talk about the conditions of justice, even if those conditions of justice include death. Right. So she didn't denounce the idea, and so they went after her. When I say they, I don't know if it's weird because one of the insights of critical race theory is that anything that really happens at a national level in the United States has to be in the interest of whites. If it's in the interest of whites, then it has a chance of happening. If it's not in the interest of whites, and the interests don't converge with those of the interest of whites, then the chance of it happening kind of go through the toilet. For example, Brown versus Board of Education, there's a confluence of interests that allowed that to happen. It seems like it was pro-black, but really, the whites were getting a lot of pressure from the communists because racial Jim Crow laws made American capitalism look bad and the butt of too many worldwide jokes. The South was getting pressure from northern industrialists who wanted to do business in the South but couldn't under the racialized economy. So there were multiple white interests that led to, for example, Brown versus Board of Education. So if you are someone who's in support of Israel and you need white allies, the white interest is in saying that, especially for someone against someone like Claudine Gay, the white interest is saying that, look, if you don't call Claudine Gay anti-Semitic, it's actually good for black people and will jeopardize white power. And white people don't like anything that'll jeopardize white power. So they'll say all right, well, if not calling Claudine Gay an anti-Semite jeopardizes white power, then I'm going to call Claudine Gay an anti-Semite, or I'm going to go after Claudine Gay. So they went after her, and they went after her with respect to plagiarism. Now, this is really kind of unsympathetic because most political science, and I say this as a guy who was in a top-flight political science department for a while, most political science dissertations, even if they aren't plagiarized, are kind of useless, as in not very important for the world. I'm not a huge fan of academics, mostly because it's a quality of culture that creates the cowardice that allows a lot of this to happen. A lot of this could have been nipped in the bud if we just had a more courageous variety of academics, but instead, you got a lot of folks who are good at school and they just kind of do what they were told, and then all of a sudden when push comes to shove, they don't have the stomach to actually shove back. So people aren't going to defend Claudine Gay insofar as most dissertations are kind of useless in a way that's really not particularly becoming. And if you don't want to shine light on that, which most people don't, then you just kind of say things quietly. And insofar as there's a plagiarism charge, I've never really felt the need. I'm not a great I'm not a great academic. If I were, I'd be tenured by now, and so I've never felt the need to climb by taking that kind of shortcut. It's not my nature. I'd rather just fail on my own, or like it's just not who I am. And I study like really hard things, so it's not particularly appealing. It's just not appealing. But a lot of people have gone pretty far by lifting sections from other sections because they don't take actual scholarship. They don't take any of it seriously, insofar as they don't actually think they know that what they do doesn't really matter. So they don't take it particularly seriously. And there are a lot of ways to show that what they do doesn't really matter. Sometimes they don't take it seriously by not asking particularly big questions. Sometimes they don't take it seriously by just doing whatever it takes to get through. A lot of people, been in and out of school for a long time, so a lot of people just look at me and say, like, well, just do whatever it takes to get the degree. And I'm like, no, that's a hack. That's what a hack does. So not most, but a good number of academics are hacks. And so that's just what it is, and I'm not going to... Claudine Gay isn't the only hack. There are a lot of hacks. There are a lot of even hacks who create original scholarship, but it's still kind of hacky insofar as it's not particularly important or relevant, or like it's scared scholarship. So she was picked because Christopher Rufo figured out a way that anytime he wants his ideological program to go forth, you just have to pitch it as something that is good for black people or would jeopardize white power. If you can do that, then ultimately, and you just keep doubling down and doubling down and doubling down, that this is actually good for black people. This is actually good for black people. This will actually jeopardize white power in the United States. Then he figures he'll be on the winning side. And I think he's right. Now, remember, and contrast this with Obama, who spent his entire election saying that, like, actually, I'm not going to change anything for black people. What they'll get is me and a better Christmas card, but I'm not going to do anything for black people. Kamala Harris is the same thing. They're on the same side of the equation insofar as they're running as people who won't do anything for black people. And Christopher Rufo just found a positive side of that equation by saying that, like, you know what? If you support them, they're actually going to do something for black people. And that, if you support Palestine, it's actually going to jeopardize white power in the United States. But so the team can't really help black people is a winning team in the United States. And even if you're black, if you could say that you're on the team won't really help black people, like Obama successfully did, by being on the team won't really help black people, that's a good team. That's a successful team in these United States. And your inability to pitch yourself as on the team won't really help black people more than just a symbol is actually a tenuous position in these United States. If you're actually serious about substantive redress for black people, that's a tenuous position. So there are just different ways of being on team, not serious about actually moving money, power into black people's pockets. And Rufo just says, like, anything that makes you uncomfortable, just say that the result of that policy is actually going to be good, is going to substantively change the power dynamics in the United States, and then, like, your side will win. Your side will win. So anything bad, anything he considers bad, he's going to consider DIE or critical race theory, which is funny because critical race theory actually explains his successful attacks. Because Derek Bell's theory of interest convergence, which is a big part of critical race theory, is that anything that happens in the United States will only happen if the whites think it's in their interest. And that's where a lot of his Afro-pessimism comes through. But Christopher Rufo says that, like, all right, so all I have to do is take all of these policies that I don't like and tell white people that it's not in their interest and bet on that. And I think Rufo's going to win. And I think Rufo stays winning. And so he stays winning, and he probably knew that this was a winning strategy without regard as soon as the left backed away and progressive backed away from the CRT fight. As soon as the left half-assed the CRT fight, like anything that you don't like, the conservatives don't like, they just have to call CRT, and the left will half-ass it. And that was the that was the Rubicon. It's like, honestly, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when the left backed away, and when progressives, good white progressives, backed away from critical race theory, guys like Rufo figured out that anything that they don't want, they just have to call critical race theory, or put it in that basket, and see how big, that wide you can make that basket, and how deep that basket goes. Because if Barack Obama's not going to fight for black people, then nobody's going to fight for black people, right? So there's this idea that anything that you want gone, just say it's actually good for black people, then nobody will fight for it. So now, justice for Palestine, that might actually be good for black people, which means, well, it's being pitched as something that might actually be part of a program that's good for black people, and that means that, like, it's not going to fly, or it's going to be a fight in the United States. But we have to fight that fight. Thing is, we have to fight that fight nakedly, saying that, one, white people have to take a haircut. And, you know, a haircut, like I took a haircut. You still see me, I just have less hair, right? They have to take a haircut and get their just desserts, and which means decolonizing a lot of power and democratizing power and, in some form, assets, too, relative to, you know, the injustice and the targeting of black institutions over the course of the United States. And when I say the targeting of black institutions, I'm saying everything from the family to the church. Black life is overwritten and overdetermined by the needs of white anxiety. And, you know, I'm going to do a show on Thursday about this. You got two types of intact black families, or two types of black families, right? So you got ones where the father's just gone, and then another one where the father is mute, with respect to challenging white power, because like that is the way to get on. But that's not that's I don't like mute black guys. So and a culture that says the way to get on is to mute black guys with respect to securing racial justice, but like that's a culture the whites allowed us to have. So that is a problem. By the way, if you like me being loud and not muted, go ahead and go to www.funkyacademic.com and kick in $5, $15, and $50, because eventually they're going to come for me too, and whoever they is they're going to come for me too, and that is, it's nice to stack a little cheddar now and be honest, because I'm kind of an anti-institutional guy, because I see that if the goal is to get Claudine Gay's position, that means the moment I actually open my mouth and am honest about something, I'm out of Claudine Gay's position. So it was all a scam anyway. And I don't know. I don't want to participate in that economy that way. And there's a way in which you say, look, well, you know, keep your mouth shut and just kind of keep rising up the ranks, and that'll do fine. And then you'll be able to say something when you're super tenured. Not just tenured, super tenured with all of this other stuff. But that's 40 years with a muzzle, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to talk loud every day, and the chips fly what they may. And if you support me talking loud every day, go ahead and go to www.funkyacademic.com, kick in $5, $15, $50. Because I also have, you know, 3 kids and a mortgage and bills to pay. And, you know, trying to finish this dissertation on Hegel and a lot of other things. It's all written by me. Every single word, and then it goes over and new words, and so it's slow and it's hard, and I have the arguments, I think, just about right. But Christopher Rufo stays winning because he figured out that anything he doesn't like, you just have to pitch it as good for black people and threatening to whites. And justice for black people in the United States is going to be threatening. It's going to be threatening to the white way of life. And unless progressives are honest about that, then the other side can just be honest about that. And if the other side can just be honest about that, or like throw everything in that basket then, and the left will always run away from that label, then the Rufos of the world will win. The Rufos of the world will win, right? So the table was set for this 3 years ago when progressives decided to run away from the CRT battle. And that was it. The moment they retreated from the CRT battle, like all of this is all downhill from there. This is all downhill from there. And there are only going to be a few ways to go back, and you're going to have to go right back through CRT. You're going to have to go right back and actually fight the battle. You're going to have to fight the battle for history. You're going to have to fight the battle for political logic and behavior in the United States. You're going to have to fight the battle. You're going to have to say that the problem is white women. You're going to have to say that the problem is white male sexual anxiety. You have to say the problem is the targeting of black institutions, from families to churches to jobs, like in the history of targeting. And for black people, we need to admit that the problem is that right now our institutions in the water table, in the reproductive mechanisms, are deficient. Right? They've been made deficient, they've been poisoned, and now they are poisoned. And it's not going to get any better without an institutional change, but the institutional change is going to have to come with a lot of white discomfort. So unless you're willing to talk about these habits and the targeting of black institutions, and the targeting black institutions as a national project, and then as a subnational project, as a project of civil society, and as a project and that targeting didn't just include black political life and voting, but it also included black family life and black property holdings and black religious life. Unless you're willing to talk about that and actually fight on that, and the fact that we're living and our inability to effectively fight back is tied to that vulnerable position and that vulnerable place, then we're not being honest. We're not being honest. And we open up the space for folks like Christopher Rufo to say, look, this whatever thing is actually good for black people. And since the left has hamstrung black people's ability to fight back against things that are good for black people, that argument, the Rufo argument, will always win. Because the defense against that argument is going to be kind of mealy mouth. Right? So we lost this when we didn't fight back for, Claudine Gay's job was already dead when we didn't fight back for CRT 3 years ago. It was already dead. We thought symbolic power symbols would save us, but it turns out that, no, we actually needed a new cultural revolution. All right, so that's where I am. Go ahead and go to www.funkyacademic.com, kick in $5.15 or $50. Go ahead and read more Derek Bell. Read more Derek Bell. Read about racial realism. Read more Derek Bell. And don't be surprised when all of your favorite policies get tarred with the idea that they might be good for black people, or good for equity, or good for our critical race theory, and then get taken out because nobody wants to defend that. When I say nobody, I mean just like rich whites and progressive whites don't want to defend that. And insofar as they don't want to actually defend substantive justice for black people, we're in the state we're in. All right. Thank you for your time. And I will talk to you on Thursday talking about something slightly different. Peace.